Hi, this is Bill Ezel with ApprovedByBill.com, and today I'm going to talk about the four major players in our industry. One being banks, secondly mortgage brokers, thirdly correspondent lenders, and lastly servicers like us. The banks, the biggest advantage you may have with the bank is if you have a lot of depositories with them, they may make some flexibility on their normal underwriting because at the end of the day they could decide to service the loan. Now, if you're a person coming off the street, you typically will find a salaried employee who gets a lot of walk-in business and may not be referral based like some of the other folks in our industry. So you don't know if they're proven. And with banks, you will have what they call bank overlays, which are individual underwriting guidelines. Each bank has its own take on it. So that's the first player. They've been around forever. They're a big chunk of our industry right now. The mortgage broker, who used to be the biggest player, is an individual who sits in his office, gets your information, and then figures out where he can get the best rate. So he has a whole bunch of different banks he can sell to. Bank of America, US Bank, Wells Fargo, all the big players. And he just figures out where you'll get your best rate. And hopefully he knows their restrictions very well because he hands it off. He has no control over it. He is not funding the loan. He isn't underwriting the loan. He may not have a relationship with the bank that is ultimately underwriting it. So that's what happens there. The flexibility that they have is that, they may have some different product and rate mixes that aren't available to a correspondent lender. But at the end of the day, it's the most restrictive of all the different channels. The third channel is your correspondent lender. Now, the nice thing about them is they do have in-house underwriting, in-house funding. They're employees of the company. So if the loan officer is running into issues and has questions, he's able to talk to his underwriter. So it is a huge advantage. And what they do is they underwrite, fund the loan, and they sell it to a bank later. So they sell it usually to Bank of America, Wells Fargo, the normal, US Bank, Chase. The disadvantage is they still have to underwrite to the individual bank where they're going to sell it because that bank will have restrictions on the underwriting. They're called overlays, like I mentioned about the regular banks. And it's even riskier for a correspondent lender because if they underwrite something incorrectly and they go to sell it to Wells Fargo, for example, and Wells Fargo says we won't buy the loan, it comes back to that company. And if they can't find another place to sell it, that loan comes out of the company capital and they lose a ton of money, or they sell the loan for a big discount on the secondary market. Very risky for correspondent lenders, but it does give you much more control than you would have with a broker. The third example is a mortgage company, a servicer, which is exactly what Guild is. We've been around 50 years. We actually have $7 billion in loans that we currently service. So when I bring in a file, if it fits the bank, it'll be underwritten, funded by my same crew, whether I keep it with Guild or sell it to a bank. Just like the correspondent banker, I can sell it there, and sometimes it'll give us a better rate, but we'll still have the additional underwriting restrictions that banks put on the files. If we run into an issue, whether it's with appraisal, assets, any other lower FICOs, to where I can't sell to a bank, then I can keep it with Guild. And what we do is we securitize the paper with Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. We follow Ginnie Mae's guidelines, which is FHA and VA. So that's the reason I can do lower FICOs and stuff. And I just follow those guidelines. So I literally just follow those guidelines with very few, if any, restrictions on them. So if it qualifies, we're good to go. I'm not worrying about selling it to a bank, and Guild will keep the loan and servicing it. So that is the most flexible. So I am by far the most flexible because I can sell it to a bank or service it. Correspondent's the next most flexible because they have various banks they can sell to. The broker is potentially flexible, depends on the scenario, but he does not have any control over the process. And in my opinion, the least control you're going to have is going through a bank because those are bank employees, and also it's very restrictive because they only have their guideline. Hopefully this helps kind of differentiate some of the players in the industry that you might have heard about. Any questions, you can email me at approvedbybill@gmail.com. You can go to my website, approvedbybill.com. And you can also call me at 720-371-4791. Outside of that, have a great day.